That's lived rent-free in my head for basically my entire life. Okay, so Monster Ranchers. Back in the days of lots kids, I remember watching this weird anime about a kid with roller skates battling monsters with some Mike Wazowski-looking creature. Uh, I remember vaguely watching it on Fox Kids, but it was quickly overshadowed by Pokemon when that came out. And I would occasionally see stuff from that series growing up, but I never felt the need to actually figure out what it was. I figured it was just another attempt at riding Pokemon's coattails. But I was actually surprised to learn that Monster Ranchers, the name of that series, actually came first. It's funny to think that. But because of that, and I think this is the closest thing Sony has to, a counterpoint to Pokemon, I figured I'd look at it since I'm doing this PlayStation retrospective. And I gotta be honest, I was pleasantly surprised. While I wouldn't say that Monster Rancher is gonna give Pokemon a run for its money anytime soon, it is a really interesting game. There isn't a whole lot of story here. It takes place in a world full of monsters, which people will often raise like livestock for the purposes of completing various jobs, as well as battling in an arena. Essentially, how the game works is you adopt a monster and you raise it. You primarily do this by putting it to work, and as it does its jobs, it'll do well or it'll do poorly. If it does well, you need to be sure to praise the monster, but if it doesn't do well, you need to scold it, at least a little bit, because if you're forgiving of its inability to perform, there's a chance that it will get complacent and continue to do worse. So you gotta find a nice balance. You can also send it off to school to train, and of course pit against other monsters in battle. It's actually kind of a fun system, and it's sort of an odd mix between Harvest Moon, Pokemon, and those little Tamagotchis that we had back in the day. But it is kind of a fun game to play. The only thing I don't really like about the game is the battle system. I don't think it really explained how it works all that well. Like, you have a list of attacks that you can do, but it's not turn-based, and I think you're limited on what attack you can do based on distance. Like, there's no way to really adjust your distance, so yeah, I was never really sure if I was doing it right, but most of the time I was able to win the fight, so it wasn't that big a deal. The most unique feature of Monster Rancher is how you can actually obtain new monsters. Essentially, how it worked is you would put the disc in the game, and you would go to a special menu. And once you're in that menu, you can actually pop open your console, take the game disc out, and then put another CD in there. And when you do that, the game will still be running, but it'll read the disc that you put in the PlayStation and conjure a new monster for you based on the data that's present. When I read about that, I was super excited because I thought it would be really cool to put my Rush CDs in there and, just bring my favorite band's discography to life. But then I remembered that my PlayStation is modified, so it doesn't even have a disc drive anymore, so I can't use the game's most famous feature, so that's a little disappointing, but otherwise, I still had fun. I just feel like I'm getting an incomplete experience here. Regardless of any shortcomings it has or how you feel about it, Monster Rancher was still a very popular game when it came out, especially in Japan, and several other games would follow. However, it would eventually fade from obscurity because, again, it just couldn't keep up with something like Pokemon. I think even Digimon lasted longer than this. The games have started to see some re-releases on Steam lately, but again, I feel like the game is sort of incomplete if you can't put the CDs in the console like you could back in the day. And considering that companies are trying to phase out physical media to begin with, it's going to be a little difficult for something like this to really stay relevant. Maybe being able to put different files into the game to see what kind of monster you get, but I have a feel there'd be some issues with that. Regardless, Monster Hunter was a pleasant surprise. This is a decent game. If you're a fan of Pokemon or something like Harvest Moon, this is definitely worth checking out. But if you need a little more gameplay, you should look elsewhere. But that's going to do it for this one, guys. Be sure to join me tomorrow as we carry on with the PlayStation Retrospective.